Yvonne Elliman, something from the classics for all of you. If I can't have you, it's 9:01, and like I told you at the fag end of the show on Friday, Norrie Williamson. This man has a fascinating life. He's provided seminars, practical clinics, after-dinner talks to clubs, groups, companies, both in South Africa and internationally. He is basically a sports performance expert, an expert in sports administration, exactly what the country needed.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
Norrie, wonderful to see you. How are you doing this morning?
Well, thank you. Surviving after a long, hard weekend.
I imagine that you spent a lot of time in the car, going by our Mumbai traffic standards.
Actually not. We spent a lot of time... spent a lot of time in lecture rooms and even more on the road in the traffic and even cycling against the traffic, because that's what course measurers do.
Well, South Africans love India, in particular Mumbai. Jonty Rhodes is a mate of mine. Jonty can never ever wait to get back into India. And he's named his daughter India. You must know that.
I don't. I'm not a great cricket follower. Unfortunately. But yes, Jonty, of course, I know. And he comes from my home city, Durban.
Yeah, correct. I sent him a text saying a South African is coming into studio on Monday. He was really happy. And Durban is, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, Durban's like the second India.
Absolutely. So what brings you here? I mean, this is an exciting 3-day workshop that you've conducted. What brings you to India, the purpose?
You too can run. It's all about running. And I'm actually a structural engineer from profession, but around about 1992 I moved totally into sport, and the passion gets you, and You Too Can Run with Venkamp are passionate about it. So he's put together a starter course for course measurers. And, you know, course measuring is quite a technical and practical orientated thing. It's all about experience. You can't just write an exam and
or look at your watch and say,
look at your watch. We can talk about watches and GPS watches. They're great, but they're not accurate. And so he's put together this course which will bring or give some foundation for the course measurers, so that when they come to a point of being licensed, they've got the background, and that's one of the things. And then, of course, we did a coaching clinic, you know, how to run, 101 of basically how to get running, how to improve your performance, the 5 aspects of improving your performance.
And that must come as a welcome surprise to you, because Indians are now very serious about middle distance and long distance running. So many head honchos of companies, you know, corporate CEOs are running the Mumbai Marathon and the Delhi Marathon, and that passion must have come across to you.
Absolutely. I mean, India is going to provide top class elite distance runners in the coming years. Statistically, they have to. A billion population, statistically they have to. But it's just getting on to that bottom end of the exponential graph. We've got to be very grateful that there is something like the Mumbai Marathon, which has kicked it off. 35,000, I believe, are now running in the Mumbai Marathon. There are 350 races. Your athletics president was saying that he thinks there are 350.
The great Adil Sumariwala.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
And he is. I mean, I have never, you're touching so many things, I'm not sure where we should be going. But I mean, I have never seen athletics president, national president, stand up in an open recorded room and say, okay, so ask me questions. You know, I mean, such an open man who wants to see the sport go. You know, it's fantastic. Of course, an Olympian, so he comes with the same passion. And that's the great thing. So I can see India's running, road running, and distance running taking off dramatically within the next decade. And somewhere it's got to start with bringing up officials, bringing up coaches at the same time. You can't just have a passion. People need to be guided and structured into seeing their goals.
Lovely. Ultramarathon athlete, coach, and author Norrie Williamson from South Africa. More conversation in a couple of minutes. Simple Minds, don't you forget about me. Norrie Williamson is here, ultramarathon athlete, coach, author. He's conducted a specialized course measurement and training for distance running workshop organized by You Too Can Run Sports Management. This just concluded at the MIG Club in Bandra. Now, you want to check out this website. It'll give you some great insights. It's www.you2canrun.com, and the 2 is TOO, not the numeral 2. You2canrun.com. More conversation with Norrie.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
So you said something interesting about the 5 methods of running properly. Give us that.
Yeah, the 5 aspects. That we need to prepare on. So first of all, there's a physical one, and that's what everyone talks about, how much did you run, etc. So the physical, then there's the logistic. You'd be amazed how many people train and forget to enter the race on time, or don't have a pacing plan for how they're going to run the race, or don't know where they're going to stay the night before, or don't have equipment, or don't have the right shoes, the correct shoes. I mean, you're actually born with the correct shoes. They're called feet. And all we need on top of that is a bit of protection from thorns and so on, and a bit of cushioning. So there's the logistics. Then there's the nutrition, because physical training is about breaking down micro tears in the soft tissue, in the muscles. And when it's allowed to recover, it gets stronger. And then you've got the mental side of things, and then you've got running style, which is the skill. Now, in any sport, it's 5. Right? The skill side, we used to think that everyone knew how to run. But in fact, that's gone. A lot of schools, a lot of educations around the world, there's no longer the PE classes. There's no longer, you take your son or your daughter and ask them to do a forward roll, they can't do it. So we've got to bring back the skill of running. And it's not helped by some of the shoes, quite honestly, because too restrictive. And the mental aspect, as I say, is absolutely, that's where the real advances are. That's where the difference between a champion performance and, just a normal performance. If you've got the desire to achieve a particular goal, you can make this thing happen. But it comes from the heart, it comes from the mind, it comes from overriding the thermostat that says, I'm too tired to carry on.
How did you manage to do this? In 1983, for all you who listen, one of Norrie Williamson's biggest achievements was running the London Marathon, flying to Boston on the same day to run the Boston Marathon the following day, and clocking astounding timings of 2:42, which was in London, and 2:45 in Boston. You look back now and say, was I crazy to do that?
I suppose I was, but again, passion drives you. I mean, 2 years before I was a rugby player, so I was 85 kgs, and so quite a heavy guy for someone that's 1.7 meters high, and somehow I got involved in running through. Actually, it was on the plane to South Africa, because I'm Scottish, like you two. Scottish originally.
Like Simple Minds, the band.
Yes, I would like to think it's not a simple mind, though. But anyway, so I took up running, and I had my end of the contract. So I was able to get a ticket back, and I ran London and Boston, and I had to finish before 11 o'clock on the Sunday to get the plane to get to New York. And I lay down on New York airport for a while, waiting for the plane to Boston, and eventually got in, I think, midnight or something like that, and then had to get up and get to the yellow bus to the start in Hopkins for the Boston Marathon. And I was, I don't know, just one of those days where you want a downhill, there's the downhill, Okay, too much downhill, how about a bit of up? Oh, there's the up, It was just a great race. And I walked on Heartbreak Hill. And all the Americans are going, no, come on, you can do it, awesome. And so they started running again. It was actually a planned walk, because I believe very much in a run-walk strategy. And it was a planned walk. Took my slice of orange and my drink of water, and off we went. And I don't know, it's just one of those days. You have those days where the motivation is so great that you go out there and do something.
It's not something that you would tell your wards, the kids you're coaching, to do.
You always say it's still something that you look back in.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. I think there was a gentleman called Juan Terreira, who was a 400-meter, 800-meter runner, and he used to wear long socks, and he was my hero in the sort of 80s, and so I had long socks. Today they're called compression socks. Yeah, correct. Everyone's doing it, but and it's like same year I did a 1,000-kilometer race, 10 days of 100 k's a day.
Wow.
And I used to run with headphones. Not on like what you've got, but with an aerial, listening to the radio.
To the radio, wow.
That's called a Walkman. It's now called called an iPod.
Yeah.
Be innovative and lead.
Okay, we're going to do some pictures and a small video of Norrie and put it up. It's at HRISHIKY on Twitter, Insta. You can follow. On Facebook, there's a page called HRISHIKY and facebook.com/radio1.mum. You could drop a post on the timeline or inbox. You have any questions, those are the platforms you could tweet and post out. If you believe in SMS, it's one space your comment or one space your question and name to 53650. I will read out every single message. Back in a bit with Norrie Williamson. It's 9:16.
94.3.
Soak up the sun, soaking up the sun with Norrie Williamson. I don't know how much sun we'll have left. They say that the monsoons are just around the corner, half a mile from heaven. Ultramarathon athlete, coach and author Norrie is here because you too can run. Sports Management has invited him. And now, there's a very valid point he made about measurement. We're going to talk about that.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
So with all these marketing gimmicks saying, a state-of-the-art watch, it can measure anything, they make it seem as though it's some kind of Harry Potter magic wand. You completely disagree. Certified course measurement is a different cup of tea.
Absolutely.
And it's not just, GPRS devices. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Well, take 100 meters. 100 meters, we've got Usain Bolt getting the world record in 9.57. Your president did 10.4 over 100 meters, an amazing time in 1980. But it was a set distance. Everyone knew it was 100 meters. Now we've got watches which help us, make no bones. Great watches which help us, and we can see our pace, we can see our time, we can see a distance. But that distance isn't accurate. That distance is about 8 meters per kilometer out. And of course, it's always over. And there are many reasons for that, which I'll touch on briefly. For instance, you wear a watch on one wrist.
That's right.
So if you're wearing it on the left and you're turning right, you're already going a meter or so wider round the corner. It adds distance
because I never thought of it that way. Yeah.
Secondly, if you just stand still and you record that and you download that, you will find that it's about 8 or 10 meters out either side. Then you're in a race and you're running that race and you're further out because 20 other people are closer to the corner. You're turning a bend in the Mumbai Marathon, and you're not on the shortest possible line. So all of these things add up, and it works out at about 8 meters per kilometer extra. So if you're running a 10-kilometer race, expect to see 10.1, 10.08 on that watch. And then some people will run off and they will go to the water table, adds distance. Or they start their watch when the gun goes and they're 100 meters back from the start line. So all these things need to be taken into account. Course measurement is very, very precise. It's used by a tool that fits on the front wheel of a bicycle with 27 clicks per rotation. So
wow.
You're talking about 100 millimeters per click. And of course it's calibrated before, calibrated after. It is so accurate that you and I can't use the same bike. Venkamp from U2 can't run. we're all three different weights, and that changes the pressure in the tire and the circumference, so it's that accurate. And if I calibrate in the morning, let's say at 6 o'clock, and I calibrate 2 hours later, there will be a difference of maybe 3 or 4 clicks, which is about 400 millimeters per ride over 300 meters. So you're talking about a meter difference in the morning to 3 hours later because of the change in temperature. So it's that sort of accuracy. And you're putting a 300 millimeter from the curb is the running line. And very few people can actually run on that line the whole way. So you get all these differences between the GPS and the accurate method of measurement, which is, of course, certified by the IAAF, or nationally it would be certified by the Athletics
AFI.
Federation in
Clean
India.
Bandit Symphony at 9:32. It's Norrie Williamson talking sports administration, training athletes, course measurement, and a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
So your experience of working with Indian marathons, I believe you've done a fair amount of work with the Goa and the Satara marathons. Talk to me about that.
Well, Satara, of course, is one of the most desirable half marathons to get to in India, and it filled up this year. The entries filled up within 24 hours for out-of-station runners. So there's still some on-station runners. Started a few years ago, and I met a Dr. Sandeep Cape and his team. They came to do something in South Africa called Comrades, a 90-kilometer event. And they then said, would I help them with some coaching and technical consultancy? And so that's the first time I came to India 3 years ago. In those days, they had 1,500 runners. Now, within 24 hours, and they're expecting about 4,000 runners overall in the race. Straight up to a place called Satara Hills, which is a World Heritage site. Fantastic. I mean, such an experience I had coming to India for the first time and going to Satara. Fantastic, Hrishi. I mean, I cannot tell you just how amazing it was to see this race and to be part of it. I'm so proud and privileged to
And Goa is normally known as the idyllic place where people just chill by the beach.
Yeah.
And you witnessed a marathon there.
Well, I went along and I measured the marathon. Dinesh Hedi asked me along to measure and certify it for IAAF and AIMS. And so we went along and we found slightly short. And that's the interest for the course measurement, is that when we first measured it, we found that it was slightly short, so we adjusted it to put it into place. And what we actually did was we took it in over the bridge to the island and then back, just to add in the distance to make it work. And again, Goa, beautiful place, great people, such a welcome. Yeah, I mean, India is going to be the destination. In fact, when I said that I was coming across on my Facebook page, I got a message, a WhatsApp from a friend in Durban and Peter Maritzburg, and he said, please contact the Mumbai organisers, and we want to bring a tour across. We want 15, 20 people. We want to stay here for 10, 15 days. So, it's going to grow.
Wow.
And you're going to have many countries and many people coming in to run.
Nidhi Taparia, super playlist, Don Henley, Katy Perry, Tears for Fears, enjoying the drive into the bay from Pune. Thank you very much, Nidhi. Kaustubh Gachke, hi Hrishi K, good morning. What an energetic Monday morning conversation. Cheers. Okay, you can keep the comments coming. One space your comment and name to 53650 at HRISHIKY, Twitter, Facebook, and facebook.com/radio1.mum. It's 9:36, and one last leg of conversation with Norrie Williamson up ahead. And you have any questions, we're good to go. And he's here to take them for you. And if not, the comments shall be read out. See you in a bit.
94.3.
Song by the band Toto called Africa for a South African, Norrie Williamson, who was in studio. Norrie is a top IAAF International Amateur Athletics Federation course measurer, was measured marathons to a T in the last 5 Olympic Games, besides marathons all over the world. Many records to his credit. One of them we spoke of on the show. A last leg of conversation with this fine gentleman.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
Radio 1.
Now, because Venkat and You Too Can Run have brought you here, I think the title of the firm really represents what we should all be thinking of.
Absolutely.
You Too Can Run. Indians in particular have a problem because, we're born with a lot of innate fear. And that is passed down from generation to a generation. If we're obese, should we run? Is it too heavy on the knees? If we have an injury, should we run? And you told me a fascinating story off the mic about how Usain Bolt was born with congenital scoliosis and he worked through it all. So who can run? Talk about that.
Everyone can run. It's for everyone. And remember, as I said, you were born with the best shoes, and they're called feet. So it's a case of gradually improving the strength of the muscles, the strength of the soft tissue, getting the adaptation, and it's starting slow enough. And by running and walking, or walking and running first, then running and walking, and then being able to run. And there's nothing wrong with walking, even in a race. It's something you can do. In fact, Frank Shorter, 1972 Olympics, he walked at every water station just for a few strides and got the gold medal. I mean, run and walk's acceptable. So you start at the beginning, and everyone, if they take their time, can get into running. Doesn't matter so much about the weight and so on. I believe that there is no such thing as a running injury. The injuries come from what we do, the 8 hours, 10 hours a day that we're working, because of the imbalances. And when we run, there is a greater load on that, on those muscles, because you're landing, so you've got an impact. And that is bringing out the imbalances. We were born symmetrical, but a lot of what we do these days is use our laptops, use our computers, use them at one side, and that makes us imbalanced. And that's the problem. That's where the injuries come from. But if you start and you get yourself into balance and you are gentle with the progression, everyone can get out there and run and improve from it. And Indians also have a culture of yoga. Last night, in fact, I was with a friend who I met the first time I came in, called Shami Gupta, in her yoga studio. And she had me upside down against this wall, and it's fantastic. Yoga and the Indian culture really helps with the balance, but you've got to get out there and start. And that's the big thing. Get out and start on a slow, gradual progression, and you too can run. And you can get up as far as the Mumbai Marathon, or you can go longer into ultra distance. So it's really exciting. What holds us back is our perceptions, our fears. But perceptions are only in the imagination. They're limits that we set ourselves. So we need to be able to break through those perceptions. Perceptions are the difference between a champion performance. Breaking perceptions is the difference between a champion performance and just an also-ran.
Wow. Ayer Baba, good morning. Happy Monday to you. Dr. Ashish Contractor. Great hearing you chat with Coach Norrie. He's a legend in his own right. Absolute legend. You're right on that. Listen, this has been fascinating. Before you go, I have to ask you a question because of your varied expertise. Who's the greatest athlete that you've ever seen? Could be long distance, could be short distance, anything. Who's the greatest athlete?
For me, I've been very, very privileged. I'm sorry. Carl Lewis, obviously, 9-time Olympian.
Were you at LA in 84, 85 when he won those 4?
No, but I had the privilege of spending a week with him in 1999
Wow.
in Houston. And he, his whole philosophy was fantastic. And then in 2008, I met a chap called Usain Bolt, and the commonality is I had to look up and strain my neck to both of them. And I've, again, been very, very privileged. I've been at 5 of the world records that Usain has done. And I think he is probably the greatest athlete that we have seen, certainly of my generation. Those two run a parallel, and they're very, very similar men, and they're very humble, down-to-earth people. So those are my two. I wouldn't separate them, really, because of the eras they were in. Fantastic people. If our sport has people like that, and people like your president, I was so impressed to meet him on Saturday. Then the sport is going in the right direction.
Anything to do with running, go to www